Welcome, Calvary Christian Church family, and thank you for allowing me these moments to visit with you once again today. Let me begin by thanking you for your thoughts and prayers as I had surgery on May 29th to have some pretty significant growths removed from both of my sinuses. I see the doctor this Friday to get the stents and the packing removed and to get the biopsy report, so pray with me for good news in that regard. I'll be saying something again before the message on Sunday, but thought it prudent to say something today in light of all that is taking place around our country. Some apparently thought that we were being silent on the current events, but we've never been silent on issues of righteousness. We were simply waiting for me to recover enough from surgery to be able to make a statement by way of video. It's important, of course, that when we break the silence, when we do speak, that we have something to say that will represent Christ-like compassion for the hurting and Christ-like wisdom for how to help and how to make a difference. And as always, we start in the place of prayer. Not only praying for those who are hurting, those who are in leadership, and those who are inflicting pain on others, but praying for ourselves as well, that we're not blinded to any of our own racial insensitivities. For this much we know, racism has always been with us, and though progress has been made to varying degrees in various places, we still have a long way to go right here in America. This was once again made painfully obvious to us in the recent death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Whether the courts will ultimately rule it murder, we know what we saw with our very own eyes. And what we saw was not just wrong, but loved ones, it was evil. Now comes the difficult and complicated questions of how to respond and how to address that evil. In the minds of some, of course, their answer is to fight evil with evil, or violence with violence. As believers and followers of Christ, we know that He has a better way and a better path for us, which is why we begin in the place of prayer. And there are at least 4 areas of focused prayer I would suggest for all of us. First, we need to pray for the family of George Floyd, to mourn with them, to mourn with all those who have been the target of racism in our country and in our communities. The reality is that it's pretty close to impossible for a white man to watch what happened to George Floyd and to truly feel the pain, the anguish, and the anger that Black Americans currently feel and are experiencing all across America. And so we begin by simply weeping with them, mourning their loss, and trying to empathize with their pain and despair, as hard as it might be to fully understand or comprehend it. Then we need to pray for the offenders and the carriers of racism. In Luke 6:27 and 28, Jesus said to love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. Third, we need to pray for our governmental leaders and all those in authority, so that, as Paul tells us in 1 Timothy 2:2, so that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. The fourth and final focus for prayer must be ourselves. Like the psalmist King David in Psalm 139, we need to pray, search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the right paths. In other words, may God help us to search our own hearts for any vestiges of racism that may lurk somewhere within us without our awareness. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Pastor Tim, prayer is great, but sometimes we have to do more than pray. And to that I would say, absolutely. But to be clear, until we pray, we can do nothing else. So I will be hosting a church-wide Zoom meeting on Wednesday night, June 10th, at 7 o'clock for us to pray, as I've outlined in my comments, and then for me to listen. I want to hear from you, what you're feeling about these issues, how some of you have been impacted by them, and then to prayerfully consider what steps we might be able to take right here within our own church family to impact our community. I learned a leadership principle many years ago when it comes to dealing with the fires of conflict. Every one of us approaches a fire with a bucket in our hands, a bucket that either contains gasoline or water. My hope is that together we can find some things to do and to say that will help bring some peace in the midst of a very stormy time in our lives and our country. Jesus promised a blessing for those who will do this. For in Matthew 5:9, Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." If ever the children of God needed to rise up and make a difference, it's now. So join me in this effort, Calvary Christian Church. God has blessed us with a wonderfully diverse and multi-ethnic church family with nearly 50 nations of the world represented in our congregation. Together, we can make a difference. God bless you for now. I love you. I'm praying for you. And I look forward to seeing you online this Sunday.